Welcome to the Embracing Neurodiversity podcast, where I share my journey of embracing the experience of my amazing son who is on the spectrum. I am Ivory, a mother, educator, and personal growth enthusiast. My goal is to offer insight and stories that may inspire you on your own parenting journey. Thank you for tuning in. Everybody, welcome back. Thank you for tuning in per usual. I am so grateful as always. I hope you all are doing well and that is it summer yet? I think it's June 20th. I don't know. But I hope that your summer is starting off strong and restful and reinvigorating. I am certainly having a great, strong summer. Last week when I spoke to you all, I was talking about how overwhelmed I was at that time, how much was going on that I felt like things were kind of like slipping from my grip in terms of being able to balance everything. And I'm so grateful because I've been able to kind of figure out a pace and a routine now. Like I've gotten some projects completed and off of my responsibility list. The school year is done for Khalil. He's in summer school right now, but we're having a pretty lax routine in terms of Khalil, and I'm just feeling like I can finally breathe. Like I've been drinking my water, I've been eating my vegetables, I've been getting rest, and so I just feel so much more clear in mind, healthy, and I've been doing a lot of my own self-care practices, my own meditation practices, and journaling and recentering myself. I've been focusing a lot on that lately, and it has been incredibly rewarding. I'm telling y'all, it works. The journaling, those affirmations, that meditation, them sitting in silence. I do some other things too that are completely rewarding for me and my mental, emotional, physical, spiritual health. So I've been able to tap into that lately, and it has allowed me to come back to myself. So with that, I am ready to dive into this week's podcast. I had some recent occurrences happen that has, of course, inspired me to talk about it on the podcast because when I learn, I like to teach. And this is something that's been top of mind for me anyway, that I think a lot about how to incorporate it into my curriculum, into my courses, because I think that it is foundational and paramount. And it is, how do we talk to children about autism? How do we talk to children about neurodiversity, right? It feels complex and overwhelming to adults. And so, how could we explain it to children? When the reality is, it's not complex at all. It feels like it because it is not a common language that we use in our vernacular on a day-to-day. When I say we, I'm more so talking about American culture, American society. I don't know what other cultures do, but unless you are immersed in this work, unless you are a parent, or unless you are an educator who teaches neurodiverse children, or you are a practitioner in some way, you are not really privy to what all of this actually means, what neurodiversity means or autism means, really, unless you have an intimate connection to the work. And so if you don't know, then like certainly your child would not know. And so what brought it up for me as an important conversation to have is because I had two occurrences in the last week that, and I've had these occurrences in the past, and I kind of like put it in the back of my brain as like something to address later, but it's come up a little bit more in recent, and I want to be able to address it so that it can help another parent, another mom. The reason why I want to talk about how to talk to children about it is because children ask really important questions. And I think it's important for us to answer their questions in the best way that we can. We don't tell them to be quiet. We don't ignore it. We don't tell them not to ask the question. That is the worst thing you can do for a child, is to ignore their question or tell them to not ask the question or to tell them to be quiet. Like, children are inquisitive. They want to learn. And if you help them to understand it, then it dismantles the judgment, right? Which is the most important thing. And then it dismantles the stigma that's attached to it, right? Because people judge what they don't understand. So if we begin to help folks understand, they become less judgmental. And then therefore we become a more inclusive society, which is the goal. So I was out having a weekend activity with family where we went on like a walking trip, and we were walking and we had some other young children with us that's around the same age as my son Khalil. Khalil is 7. And everyone in my family knows, and anyone that's extended to me obviously knows. If you know me, you know Khalil, and I'm an autism mom, and my son is on the autism spectrum. And everyone is understanding and inclusive and respective and embracing of that. I would not have it any other way. They are inclusive and embracing of it to the best of their ability, right? And that is a journey for everybody, including me. So we had two young people with us, and they had been around Khalil before in the past. And a lot of young people do gravitate toward Khalil, and I think it's a beautiful thing. But does get a bit awkward when they want to engage in play or engage in conversation, and Khalil is not wanting to play with them collaboratively, or he doesn't respond to their questions, right? When you see Khalil just by looking, you wouldn't be able to, like, first of all, autism doesn't have a look. And so that's a big misconception. But you wouldn't know that he had autism until you would want to have a conversation with him and he doesn't respond. And so when that happens with young people, more often than not, if we're at a park or a swimming pool, kids usually just go about their business. Like, they're just like, okay, he's not talking and he doesn't want to talk, or they probably realize that something is different, and then they keep it moving. But this particular weekend, when we were with two young people who are an extension of my family, one of the young kids wanted to engage with Khalil, and he was being very shy, because he sometimes can be shy, particularly with young girls his age. And so she wanted to like engage with him, and her parent was sort of like, no, come on, come on, no, leave him alone. And they meant well, because they didn't want to make it awkward, knowing that Khalil has autism. And of course, I'm not going to tell a parent what to do with their child. And so it was an awkward moment, and we sort of let it go. But in the back of my mind, like, as someone who is a mom, who is an educator, who is skilled in this area, who's worked with young people, I wanted to let her know that actually, no, it's a good thing that she wants to engage with Khalil and to learn him and to get to know him. It is actually harmful to tell your child to leave a child who is different alone, or to not engage. Like, you want them to engage, you want them to explore and get to know. And even if a child who has a speech difficulty or delay doesn't respond back, children have the ability to ascertain and process that, and then decide on their own how they want to engage, right? I've sat back and watched young people engage with Khalil and figure out a way to play. It really is adults who impact that negatively, or who interfere with that. And so I was like, okay, like, parents mean well, but I wish that she would know that it's actually okay that she engages with Khalil. It cultivates empathy and inclusivity, which children already have. But again, it's adults who begin to strip that away from them. So that was one instance. And so I was like, okay, I need to I want to do a podcast on talking to adults about how to talk to their children about autism. That's one. The second instance, same young girl, we were at a family member's house days later, and she asked me, she was like, is something wrong with Khalil? Like, is there something off, or is there something wrong with him? And she said something that was slightly hurtful, which I don't want to repeat because I don't want to reverberate that into the universe. But, I'm a mom, and I love my son just like any other mom. And so, of course, you don't want anybody to see your child as having a deficit, right? I'm okay with you seeing Khalil as different, because I don't think different is bad. But when you see a deficit, I got a problem with that. And maybe I need to unpack that in my own time, but that is my reality. So she was like, is there something wrong with Khalil? Then she, asked a couple of other questions that kind of like made my heart ache a little bit, but I understood that she wanted to understand. And so I was like, Khalil has autism. And she's like, oh, I have a cousin in my family that has autism, but I don't know what that means. And I think she's this young girl who was asking me, I think she's about 8. So I was like, it just means that you're different, that you think different, that sometimes you have a difficult time communicating. Sometimes you have a difficult time socializing with your peers. And that was the simplest way that I can explain it to her. And she was still sort of processing it. And we just left it at that. But again, I was thinking like how powerful or impactful would have been if her parent had the language to explain this to her, and then there was an opportunity for her to engage with Khalil in a way where she sees him as just who he is, not anything different, not anything worse, or that's something that she should stay away from, right? So with that, I want to be able to provide some strategies, because I'm solution based, honey. Or whenever I experience something that can be painful or that I can see that has a ripple effect that can cause issues, I try to get in front of it and provide a solution. And so I sat back, I thought about it, and I was like, based on my experience as an educator, based on my experience as an autism mom, and my work in readings, what are some simple ways, some simple strategies that I can offer to parents so that they have the tools to talk to their children about autism, right? It's so important. Difficult conversations are necessary. That's the only way that we're going to get to the point where we are accepting and celebratory of each other. And so, here are 5 ways that you can talk to your child about autism. Number 1, use simple, clear language. You all know I'm going to be looking over at my screen because I need my notes. So, excuse me if I'm not always looking at the camera, but use simple and clear language. And so, when you explain autism, make sure that the language is age appropriate. So, for example, like I just told you all with my scenario, so autism means that some people's brains work differently. It can mean that talking, playing, and understanding feelings is harder for them. Period. Now, this is general and it does not apply to every person on the autism spectrum. But when you are explaining autism to young people, that is the preferred language that you use. Number 2, highlight differences and similarities. And so you want to make sure that you are cultivating a space of empathy so that they can also identify and find a similarity, right? And so you can say, just like how some kids are good at sports and other kids are good at drawing, people with autism have their own good special strengths and challenges too. Ask your child, what are you good at? What are you not so good at? And then identify a person who has autism and say they're good at this, but they're not very good at that. Help them make that connection. Number 3, emphasize patience, right? We know that empathy is important, as stated in number 2. Number 3, patience is important too. Now, we're emphasizing patience, but the reality is young people already have it when it comes to peers their age, most of them. We're the ones that strip them from it. So perhaps we should be reminding ourselves as well. Teach your children to be understanding and patient with their peers who have autism. Suggest if you see someone having a hard time, try to be kind and patient. They may need a bit more time or a different way to do things. Number 4, promote inclusivity. Remember, I told you all how the parent of the young girl was like, come on, leave him alone. She thought she was being calm, but actually she interfered in the opportunity of inclusivity. And so give them an opportunity to encourage play. For example, say to them, if your friend or if you know someone with autism, they like a certain game, maybe you can play it with them. And last but not least, okay, like the example I gave you all about answering the questions that your children have. It's okay to answer. There's no bad question, right? And so answer questions honestly. Be open to the questions and answer them honestly, maintaining a positive and respectful tone. Tone is important. If a child asks, why does he do that? Or why does my friend do that? You can respond with, they do these things a bit differently because of how their brain works. It's just another way to be. It's okay. So, using these tips can help your child to develop a high level of understanding or maintain their level of understanding and increase their inclusivity, right? That is the goal. And so, if you have any questions about that, please don't hesitate to reach out. But I want to encourage you to encourage your child to engage with people who are different than them. It's okay. Until next time, take care of yourself.